Well, glorious colour in the sky here at Sydney Motorsport Park, west of Sydney. And all in readiness now for the next race, which is our 13th race, our 23rd on-track event. This Clubman's their third race, and to be run over 15 minutes around the now lit Sydney Motorsport Park. So Gary O'Brien, a wonderful scene in terms of the variety of categories that we've seen at this meeting, but also that this is the third round of something like 7 in the Clubman Championship, and they'll be back here at Sydney Motorsport Park for the round after this one, won't they, in a couple of months' time?
Yeah, I think they've got a little bit of a break now. We go to July 10. We're back here again, and then round 5's down at Wakefield Park in August. That'll be a very cold day, to say the least. Sydney Motorsport Park in October, and then Winton in Victoria for the final round in November. And so far, Ivan Shrever's been the man to beat. He's won 2 races at the opening round, and then a second. He did compete in the second round, but didn't have any sort of luck there at all. Got a fourth, and a third. So he must be pretty close to leading the series, but so far this weekend he's been dominant.
Absolutely, he's been running away from everybody on a slightly smaller field than they've had in the first 2 rounds, Gary.
Well, we've lost a couple along the way, haven't we? I know there was one that pulled out very early. Oh, we've got one stuck on the grid, hasn't moved at all, and that would be our race winner from races 1 and 2.
Just as we were saying, what a good weekend he was having. As you say, in the first 2 of their races, this being the third.
We've certainly put the mockers on the commentary's curse, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
Commentator's curse. So it's Chris Barry, who's come from... it is Chris Barry, we've got a different number up for him. Said 6, maybe there's a 1 there somewhere we couldn't see, but Chris Barry, who's been a long stalwart of this series, and that is the 61. Chris Barry in the PRB Toyota engine car that's out in front at the moment. They're a variety of engines. They run, most of them run Toyotas, whether they be the big lock up there, one of them, the 4RG, 4 whatever it is, the Toyota engine. There's one out there running a Nissan engine, there's another one running the Honda engine, and of course we've got other cars there as well. Besides the PRBs, we've got the Fisher Fury, the Locust, Graham Robertson, certainly in the Locust, has been very strong performer. He finished with a second earlier in the day. Dick and Shervington were the next 2 in that earlier race. But this one's going to be a little bit different. It was the 45, which you've got on screen there, in Sherber, that's had the drama off the start, but he's at least picked up 2 positions already.
Absolutely. Not hard in terms of finding a place to overtake, and as you say, Gary, making good ground here. But not everybody with lights on, but that's not necessary because the entire circuit is lit. And indeed, we'll see races later for cars that have no lights. They'll be getting around this fully lit Sydney Motorsport Park circuit.
Certainly the previous race supercars, they don't have any lights at all. You can't even flash anyone in front of you or anything.
No. Well, they don't even have a starter motor, do they? Electric's almost unknown in those simple, wonderful little gadgets.
But this is an intriguing class. This takes us back a bit, probably very close to a Lotus 7 style of car. Which I think the PRBs were trying to emulate when they built these things to start with, and this is back quite a few years ago now that these cars were started. If I recall properly, I think it was about 2004, 2005.
Oh yes, at least that far back.
And they can get to 100 kilometres an hour in 3.8 seconds and carry about 2 G's worth of force in a braking zone.
And this is the point, with a very modestly sized engine, but because the cars are so light.
Yep, exactly.
And simple. And as I say, I mean, theoretically too, you can register them for the road.
Well, you can. They do road versions of these cars. The race one has a few different bits and pieces in it, naturally enough. It's probably a stronger cage to start with, and because of their construction too, they can take a fairly good hit and continue.
But imagine sitting in one of those with the 32 wheels of a B double going past you.
Well, I still
they'd be
would
over
like to be
at the top of your head.
Yeah, we can slip underneath it maybe.
You could. You could overtake it going ahead of a triaxle.
Yeah, so it's
one side to the other.
James Dick and Stuart Shervington battling it out for the lead
Good
at the
battle,
moment.
good battle, beauty. Round the outside, and he might even make it work, because if he sticks there, but he's tucked back.
No,
But if he'd stuck there, he still hasn't done it.
Very close. Now
It was really good stuff.
He's got the run down in turn 4. This might work for him if he's on the inside. So we just wait and see. No, Dick has covered him off there.
Now he's got it, surely. No.
And these guys know each other backwards and forwards because they've raced against each other for so long that they would have no dramas knowing where they are. They've certainly dropped off Chris Barry by quite a margin.
And the thing too is that they just being sensible and not wanting to get themselves into a situation that with fairly exposed wheels could be very, very dangerous.
Oh, for sure. Like a Formula Ford, when you see them going down through turn 1 and they're interlocking wheels but still travelling at speed.
One riding over another, and
well, not even touching sometimes, but even though the wheels are interlocked. And this is a similar thing. They've got a guard there, but I don't know how long that'll last if there was a touch. I think that'd come off pretty readily.
Now this will be the interesting thing. He's wanted to come out quickly through that corner to get up onto the tail of the car in front of him, to slipstream him down the straight and to see if he can build up enough speed, helped by the slipstream, which gives him quite an advantage in terms of speed and things. Sticking there, but can't get enough speed to get her up beside him and go round him. Let's see what he can do under brakes then as they come to this slow corner, where the last lap he went round the outside, or tried to. This time he was trying for the inside, but it was covered and he wasn't quite quick enough to get to him.
It was interesting, Will, that on that last particular lap, the second car was 3 kilometres an hour faster down the straight than the front running car.
Yeah.
So that just goes to show you that...
this is what people don't understand about gaps, and they say, oh, there's this physical gap between cars. You can't measure a physical gap because the speeds change so much. So the gap at 100 kilometres an hour is half the size of a gap at 200 kilometres, double the size of the physical gap at 200 kilometres
there from Shervington,
which
down
he'd
to
done
turn
previously,
6.
hadn't he?
Yep, and look who's looming right up behind him. The man that was on pole that had that stalled car and dropped right to the back. He's caught him back up. He had 2 wins earlier in the day, and he's back in a prime position, and we've still got 5 minutes plus of this race to go. And I dare say at this rate that he's going to get past him. He's got the fastest lap of the race at a 1:42 dead. These cars in front of him are doing mid-43s, so he's got about a second and a half in performance.
So Ivan Stryber here in car 46, that light bluey-green coloured car in third place at the moment. Fastest lap, pole position, but stalled on the start line, has come from the tail end of the field and now up into second place.
Yeah, it certainly does it with these 222 kilometres an hour for the number 45 as opposed to 211 and 208 for those around him. So it's got a bit of a speed advantage.
It's got Shervington broken away from the tail of that car in front of him.
Well, we've seen that little slip up from Shervington down at turn 6, so that's what's put that gap out to where it is. And he just needs to now, Dick needs to now concentrate on what's happening in front of him, and I don't know if there's a lot he can do about it in a straight line. Certainly around this part of the circuit, you can control your own destiny to a certain extent, but when it comes to straight line handling, there's not much you can do if they're a bit quicker than you.
It's a surprising circuit, Gary, isn't it, in terms of the variety of corners, the uphill and downhill and all the rest of it. A surprisingly good testing track.
It is.
Within a small distance and quite handy to Sydney.
Yeah, I recall back in the early days when supercars started coming here on a regular basis, they used to say that morning practice as opposed to afternoon practice with a wind change, how much it affects the performance on track. A lot of changes they had to make to the cars so they could still get the lap times out of them. And you know, if a breeze is coming from the east, like from up here, going down the straight, that was certainly different from them coming over the Blue Mountains, coming the opposite direction.
Yeah. Okay, well, so with lap times of about the 140s, I was just about to say that Schreiber didn't have the speed seemingly to get to the leader, Dick, but he did, and he's gone back into the lead, the position he held from qualifying, being on pole position. But interesting stuff down under brakes. Dick trying to get very cheeky indeed to the man who was quicker in qualifying and has caught him and passed him now. And in fact, he's dropped back a little bit closer than he was previously to Shervington, albeit as speed builds up, the physical gap between them builds up also, and it's a gap now of about, well, I would have thought 3 or 4 tenths of a second at least. But it's not now, no.
There's not a lot of difference around the back part of the track between the three of them. They're all fairly close. It's just on the main straight. Like Sherber was about 10 k's an hour quicker down the straight the last time than what James Dick was. So now that he's gone, basically, this battle that was for the lead now for second will continue, because Shervington has made up that leeway that he lost at turn 6 a lap or so ago.
So here's Ivan Schreiber back in the lead. Bright lights behind him of James Dick in car number 48.
Yeah, we've got this good dice between Kroon and Barry has just taken Kroon. He was behind him before, so there must have been a problem with Chris Barry earlier on, because he was leading going into turn 2 on the opening lap, and all of a sudden he's back down in position 6. So we've missed something there. He's fighting back the best he can, although his lap times would suggest that he couldn't match the front runners anyway. Now here he comes down. He'll be in position 4 as they come across the line, and Josh Kroon will be in 5th, and just a couple of other runners still going, but they're quite spread out at this stage. So I would assume we're now beyond the last lap with 50 odd seconds of this one remaining, and certainly it's been interesting. It's certainly livened up this race with the 45 being stalled on the grid, made a race of it, but these two have been the stars, haven't they? They've been at it since they got to the front on the opening lap.
Well, they've done 6, so I think they're on 7 now, is that right?
They're on lap 7, yes, and I'd suggest that with 19 odd seconds to go, the checkered flag will come out on this particular lap. We normally get an indication, but it's not happening for us today. We'll soon figure it out though. There's our race leader coming through, and Shervington runs a bit wide. He's having a go, so he must know something's happening.
Well, what he's got to try to do is to get up close, which he's not at the moment, to Dick. Well, so they come round onto the straight, do some slipstreaming, but he's not close enough to get to it. It's going to be 1, 2, 3 as the order is now, as they come out of the final corner and go down. Checkered flag awaits them at the end of 7 laps, and so it is Schreiber from Dick and Shervington in 45, 48 and 25 respectively, with Barry heading another two-way dice. He in 61 from Kroon in number 19, coming home in 5th place. Then a gap back to a lone driver, Thirlwall, in 37, coming home in 6th. Should be from McBride in 49 in 7th place, and Woodcock 8th and final finisher, I think, in 145. Roberson in 80, I think, a non-finisher.
Well, that's it for Clubman's for their race meeting. That's over and done with. And
their championship round, indeed.
Indeed, that's round